Psalm, Proverbs chapter 4, beginning in verse 1, says, Hear, my children, the instruction of a father, and give attention to know understanding, for I give you good doctrine. Do not forsake my law. When I was my father's son, tender and the only one in the sight of my mother, he also taught me and said to me, Let your heart retain my words, keep my commands, and live. This is Michael Chandler, pastor of Victor Valley Bible Church in Victorville, California, and I would like to welcome you to this Bible on Our Day podcast, offering lessons from the Bible on various topics related to theology as well as current issues. What does God have to say about these things? This time we're looking at the subject of precious proverbs for papas to put into practice. You may have heard the saying that when God gave us kids, he did not give us an instruction manual. Well, this expression does reflect a common sentiment. It's important nonetheless to assess its value. On the one hand, yes, God does indeed give us children. As stated in his word, Psalm 127 verse 3 plainly says, children are a heritage from the Lord. A heritage from the womb. They belong to God and he gives them to us. This means that children are not only a blessing, but also a precious gift from the Lord. They are neither earned nor deserved. Children are given to us. They are God's gifts. Imagine opening a present, let's say on Christmas Day, only to find a complicated gift with many related parts, all crucial for its proper functioning. However, there is no user's guide to give you step-by-step instructions or advice on troubleshooting common issues. You might feel lost without even a 1-800-HELP-ME hotline to call. The product cannot be returned or passed on to another person because it was gifted to you. You're tempted, perhaps, to keep it in the box, leave it alone, or even throw it away. Who needs this thing anyhow? You react with disgust. When it comes to our children, I assure you that God has not left us without help, without guidance, or even instructions for managing the common troubles that come with raising his gifts. And when we need help, the 1-800-HELP-ME line is open 24 hours a day. It's called prayer. The basic instructions before leaving Earth, we call that the Bible, B-I-B-L-E, is loaded with precepts, principles, and patterns on what to do and what to avoid in our care and handling of these blessings from the Lord. And so during this Father's Day season, I will be presenting divinely inspired proverbs that, if put into practice, will ensure that we have done the will of God with his gifts. Regardless of our children's choices for which they will be held accountable, parents can know that they have followed the Lord and raised their kids God's way. So let us consider the book of Proverbs. This collection, this volume contains approximately, listen to this, 800 individual sayings spread across some 31 chapters and 915 verses, offering a wealth of teachings aimed at fathers and their relationships with their children. The book of Proverbs covers a host of variety of all different kinds of problems and challenges in this life. Many verses directly relate to the father's relationship to his kids and a mother's relationship to her children as well. From the beginning, we see that fatherhood is linked to God's wisdom. A man, listen to this, a man entrusted by God with the care of his gifts fully accepts the responsibility to train his children in wise living. Let me say that again. A man, a real man, a true man, a manly man entrusted by God with the care of his gifts fully accepts the responsibility to train his children in wise living. The Apostle Paul put it this way, writing to the Ephesians 6:4, saying, Fathers, bring them up in the training and admonition of the Lord. So with this objective in mind, fathers start with the fear of the Lord. Proverbs chapter 1, verse 7, at the introduction, the prologue to the book of Proverbs, Solomon says, Proverbs 1, verse 7, very get-go, stating, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction." That same theme throughout the book of Proverbs is reiterated, not only here in Proverbs 1:7, but also Proverbs 9:10 and Proverbs 15:33. This key phrase can be defined as, quote, being afraid enough to care about what God says and humble enough to submit to his authority, end quote. Another perspective suggests that we truly fear the Lord when, quote, the smile of God is our greatest delight and the frown of God is our greatest dread, end quote. These are great statements, great definitions. What does it mean to fear the Lord? Professors of mine I had at the seminary, college pastors I knew when I was a young Christian, they said, look, it is enough to care about what God says and humble enough to submit to his authority, being afraid, being humble. It is when the smile of God is our greatest delight and his frown our greatest dread. A dominant theme throughout the whole counsel of God is the fear of the Lord. As in Deuteronomy chapter 10, where Moses tells the children of Israel, and now, O Israel, what doth the Lord your God require of you? But to fear the Lord your God, to walk in all his ways and to love him, and to serve the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul, and to keep the Lord's commandments, which I am commanding you today for your good. Peter put it plainly this way in 1 Peter 2:17, fear God. Jesus also taught his disciples in Matthew 10:28, saying, don't be afraid, don't fear who can only kill the body. Rather, I will tell you whom you should fear. He said, fear the one, that is God, who is able to destroy both body and soul in hell. Unbelievers, however, do not fear God at all. The fool has said in his heart, there is no God, Psalm 14. There is no fear of God before their eyes, Paul put it plainly in Romans 3 and verse 18. No, successful fathering is therefore out of the reach of the unbeliever. Until one comes to Christ, in whom are hidden all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge, his fathering is vain, and he parents his children as an empty vessel and one who is aimless in the goals for which God gave him those children. Like Joshua, let fathers assert, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. A second principle we can affirm is that fathering in the fear of the Lord leads to God's blessing. Without question, wise children bring happiness and joy to their parents. Wise children bring happiness and joy to their parents. A wise son makes a father glad. Proverbs 10, Proverbs 15. Proverbs 23, verses 15 through 16 puts it this way, saying, quote, my son, if your heart is wise, my heart will rejoice. Indeed, I myself, yes, my inmost being will rejoice when your lips speak right things. Additionally, Proverbs 23 says, the father of the righteous will greatly rejoice, and he who begets a wise child will delight in him. Let your father and your mother be glad, and let her who bore you rejoice. You can see the same theme there in Proverbs 27, verse 11, and Proverbs 29, 3, and Proverbs 29 and verse 17. Listen to these key verses. Proverbs 27 and verse 11. The scripture says, my son, be wise and make my heart glad. Proverbs 29 and verse 3. Whoever loves wisdom makes his father rejoice. Verse 17, correct your son and he will give you rest. And so we see it here. You want happiness, you want joy, you want thanksgiving, you want rest for your soul. Raise wise children. That's what the scripture says, men. A third standard warns us that failing to live in the fear of the Lord will, on the other hand, lead to curse. That is, to God's curse on our parenting practices. Many times I've witnessed that foolish children bring immense grief to their parents. Again, Proverbs chapter 10 and verse 1 says, a wise son makes a father glad, yes, but a foolish son is the grief of his mother. Proverbs 15 and verse 20, referred to a moment ago, A wise son makes a father glad, but a foolish son despises his mother. Proverbs 17 and verse 25. Here we read, a foolish son is a grief to his father and bitterness to her who bore him. Proverbs 19 and verse 13. Proverbs 19 and verse 13, we read, a foolish son is the ruin of his father. Proverbs 17:21 states, he who begets a scoffer does so to his sorrow, and the father of a fool has no joy. Despite their godly efforts to train their children, parents may still experience deep sorrow due to the poor choices of their unregenerate children. Conversely, we read Proverbs 29:15, the rod and rebuke give wisdom, but a child left to himself brings shame to his mother. Correct your son, the scripture continues, and he will give you rest. Yes, he will delight your soul. The scripture says, men, we must instruct our kids now and teach them to fear the Lord. It's never too early to begin teaching your children who God is and their responsibility to him. Specific uses of the term father within the book of Proverbs reveal at least 5 imperatives that a God-fearing father will implement in his parenting philosophy. And by conscientiously following these instructions from God's manual, a father may enjoy the blessing of God and avoid the misery brought on by foolish children. I invite you to join me next time as we continue our look at more Proverbs for papas to put into practice. And may God bless you with your children. Psalm 27 for scripture memory this week. Let me encourage us to hide this away in our hearts. Psalm 127 says, unless the Lord builds the house, they labor in vain who build it. Unless the Lord guards the city, the watchman stays awake in vain. It is vain for you to rise up early and to sit up late, to eat the bread of sorrows, for so he gives his beloved sleep. Behold, children are a heritage from the Lord, the fruit of the womb is a reward. Like arrows in the hand of a warrior, so are the children of one's youth. Happy is the man who has his quiver full of them. They shall not be ashamed, but shall speak with their enemies in the gate. Psalm 127. I'm Michael Chandler, pastor of Victor Valley Bible Church, located at 16439 Hughes Road in Victorville, and we invite you to worship with us on any given Lord's Day. Our services are held on Sunday mornings at 10:15. See us also on YouTube, or for more information, please visit our website at www.victorvalleybiblechurch.com or email at bibletrom@gmail.com. Thank you for listening, and may God bless you as you live out the Bible in your day.